Suzy Wrong. Joy Drive with Dean Warren's film, TV and theatre reviewer.
Suzy Wrong.
Hi, how did you go with this week's?
Well, you know what? It was so wet and cold here in Melbourne, and I sort of had a nice hot shower, put my jammies on, curled up on the couch and thought, I'm going to watch this homework that Suzy Wrong has set, which is I Care A Lot, which is streaming on Amazon Prime at the moment. I was on the edge of my seat.
Did it make you want to have a shower after again?
I think I had to.
Yeah, it's disgusting, people, isn't it?
Tell us about it.
In the film's opening sequence, Rosamund Pike as Marla Grayson declares that playing fair is a joke invented by rich people to keep the rest of us poor. We then learn that not only does she not play fair, she's a monster of quite extraordinary horribleness. Through unscrupulous connections with shonky operators in the healthcare industry, she makes herself the legal guardian of supposedly infirm old people and then does away with their freedom and their money. The real drama happens when one of her new clients, Jennifer Peterson, played by Diane Wiest, turns out to be a lot more dangerous than anyone would have imagined, with a terrifying gangster for a son. The incomparable Peter Dinklage is wonderful as always in the role. Performances are all brilliant, with technical and design excellence everywhere that you look, but the story pulls no punches and shows us the worst of humankind. It is not an easy ride, is it?
It's not. And Yes, I mean, there's a lot to say about it. I loved the performances of all of them. Peter Dinklage is extraordinary in this.
Yes.
And I quite like the fact that they have played him and also her, the main character, as evil, as so evil. It's sort of interesting because she sort of plays as a lesbian character as well. I mean, that's a funny little sideline too, Suzy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what did you think of that sort of lesbian portrayal? Because personally, I do like the idea that we have come to a state in evolution where we are ready to see ourselves in a negative way. Like we no longer have to be role models all the time. That was exciting for me.
I liked that also, the fact that it seemed like incidental sexuality. It wasn't like, oh, she's a lesbian character and this is the way that's playing out. It wasn't important to her role or her position. It just was incidentally, there's a bit of hot lesbian kissing.
She had the Don't Mess With Me haircut and she was vaping all the time. I thought the character was absolutely amazing and
hideous.
She played it really, really well. I did like the mother too. What was Diane, what was her
Wiest.
name? Wiest. She was fantastic and I thought she did that really well. But how's when they go to take Mrs. Peterson away from the house, that whole moment of having created this fake court order. Well, it wasn't a fake court order, but the actual, evidence for it was all fabricated. And then going to the house, did you get that sinking feeling that, oh my goodness, this could be my parents or this could be me when I get old? Someone could take complete control of all my finances, my assets, everything, and put me in some home and I haven't got access to anyone.
I instantly thought that, does this happen in Australia? Do we have the same sort of legal allowances for things like that to happen here? I was hoping that it only happens in America.
We should get on to Nichols Family Law about that, find out what the situation would be.
But that's what kept me on edge, was watching it unfold and thinking, oh my goodness, these poor people, it is exploitation of older people, it's elder abuse.
And also Diane Wiest played it perfectly. You could see that it dawned on her slowly, because ostensibly we're led to believe she has no family and nobody that can jump to her aid. And so it dawns on her slowly, or quite quickly actually, that, oh my God, this is my life now.
Her phone is taken off her?
Great. It is so great that even though it's such an outlandish story, such outrageous characters, like Warren is right, you feel like this is so real. It could just happen to anyone that you know, or it could happen to yourself.
Absolutely. And just the fact that, she was locked in this home. No one could visit. No one could visit at all. She had no access to a phone. And if she arced up or anything, she was injected with some sort of sedative to calm her down. I mean, this is nightmare material.
Yeah.
But it was done in such a way that it almost seemed like, wow, this could happen.
Yeah, it's certainly very realistic and it's certainly very terrifying.
Yeah.
Aside from this sort of detail of what actually goes down, I think what the film does say a lot is about just our general way of life, how we let institutions run things without knowing very thoroughly what happens, and also how people are able to make money sort of being in cahoots with the government because everything's privatized now. So you kind of don't really know. There isn't
we'll never know.
And it almost feels like money can just take people anywhere.
And it's also on the back of, all the problems we've had in aged care here as well. So I found that quite chilling.
And they make the point quite clearly that it's easy to get the Diane Wiest character to play along because she has an inbuilt fear of authority, or just a belief that is bred into that generation, that if this is ordered by the government, this must be the right thing to do. Petrifying.
Suzy, I wanted to ask you, one thing that came to mind for me when watching it was, you're of Asian culture. Is there's more respect for older people, isn't there, and almost a responsibility to look after them as they age, as opposed to, say, Western culture where it's like, we'll put them in a home out of sight. Do you reckon that's a fair call?
Yeah, there's a huge shame involved when you talk about sending the old people in your family to sort of these institutions or to these homes. It's just the most darkest secret that you have to keep if you're old, like the older people in your family have to go to a home like that, because we come from a culture where we have 3-4 generations all in one household, and in this perspective, in this context of talking about this movie, clearly it is a really good value to have. But we can't be sort of really naive about that. Nobody really wants to live with their grandparents and great grandparents all in one home, really.
No, but if you do have to have children, make sure one of them is a Russian thug.
Oh yes, a Russian thug as a son.
That's right.
To look after you, to get you out if it does go the wrong
interestingly,
way.
we just had Kieran text in. He says, it absolutely happens here. I'm a social worker and it's called elder abuse, and that is frightening. But somebody also says Diane Wiest has some cracker lines also, and it absolutely... she does. It's beautifully written. It is beautifully shot. It's a great piece of work.
I loved it. And it also plays on that whole fear of, almost that gaslighting, the fear of dementia, and the fact, that they almost talked the elderly into thinking that they've got all these problems with them. And they're like, well, no, I was perfectly fine.
Yeah, and one of the main things that the film is about, I think it sort of goes into quite extreme territory because it sort of has a point to make. And when I just played it on the second time today before talking to you guys, the opening sequence actually talks about how we are all complicit in this sort of behavior because we trust in these systems, and we trust that our systems work. We trust that all these organizations are there for a reason, and we don't question them, and then we allow them to be that way in a way that we are partially invested in them. We rely on those systems as well. So it's good to sort of watch the film and think that it's not just these evil people that are doing these things, but we kind of allow them the power and the space to behave this way.
Yeah, and for little Jason and anybody else that missed the title of the film, it is I Care a Lot. It is screening on Prime Video in Australia, which I think is a shame. I'd like to see it on one of the bigger streaming services.
I would too.
Because I found that difficult to get access to. But that's about me.
I sat down, Suzy, and I couldn't switch it off. Like, I was actually busting to go to the loo at one stage, and I thought, oh my goodness, I don't want to pause it. It was so gripping.
Yeah, it's really powerful filmmaking with really, really excellent performances.
What's our homework for next week, Suzy?
We are staying on Amazon Prime Video. This time a much gentler story. It's called Uncle Frank. It stars Paul Bettany in a film directed and written by Alan Ball of American Beauty and 6 Feet Under Fame.
So it's going to be good.
So Uncle Frank on Amazon Prime.
That's right.
Suzy Wrong, it is a great pleasure as always.
Thank you for having me.
When do you want to see us?
Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.